Hi guys, welcome back. So apparently WNBA basketball player Caitlin Clark started saying that she's got white privilege and she's working with a bunch of girls that have basically helped pave the way. But she might be speaking just what's really truthfully on her mind. Should we as Republicans listen to her opinion and respect it? Because we don't like when Democrats don't listen to our opinions and respect us and censor us. Now people are talking about boycotting watching the WNBA at all because now they're equating Caitlin Clark to being woke. Let's see if we can hear what people think about it.
We all see why the WNBA is broke. They have horrible business sense because the head of the WNBA should have been squashed all this. This should have been squashed. Now you have the Mystics, I believe, owner going on television saying she's mad that Caitlin Clark was the player of the year and got the cover. That it should have been about the players. This bitter black woman that's jealous of Caitlin Clark. That's jealous that a white girl is getting all this attention in a league that has not made any money and that nobody cares about. And they're angry about it. They're angry. But it's not her problem that she's great, that she's drawing all these. And I'm mad at Caitlin Clark and done caring about her narrative because she shouldn't apologize for her greatness. She should just accept that she's great. It's not her job to lift up the black players.
How do you guys feel about this? Imagine going into a league that's predominantly black and your favorite players ever since you were a little girl were black women, WNBA players. You're giving them credit and now you're getting a little backlash. You also say that, hey, you have experienced some white privilege, which for all I know, maybe she has. I can just tell you from my point of view, I know a lot of white people that haven't had much privilege, period. Let's go on.
Interview with Time Magazine. Caitlin Clark obviously was awarded the Athlete of the Year for 2024. There are people who are really not happy with the comments that Caitlin Clark was quoted as saying. I'm not happy with a few things she said either. But I think from what I saw, many people, if not most people, feel like she's 22 years old. She's young.
Yeah,
Extend some grace.
I
And I
agree.
am extending grace. I also brought out the point that Caitlin Clark could very well just mean what she said. Some people want to say she was taken out of context, perhaps. Some people want to say they forced her into doing it. She was pressured, etc. And those are possibilities. It's also possible that she said exactly what she meant. Does your support of her basketball rely on you agreeing with everything she said?
See, I think she brings up an excellent point there. The reality is, half of the athletes that you probably cheer for on any given Sunday or any given day of the week are probably politically the opposite of you if you're a conservative person. But at the same time, if they're a great athlete and they make watching the football or the basketball game worth it, I think that's all that matters.
That's something that you have to decide. I tend to think, as many people said in the comments, yo, we're rocking with Caitlin's basketball, even if
Amen.
we don't agree with some of that other stuff. But it is concerning to a certain extent. Now, for those of you who tend to say, just leave it alone, just let it go. No. Wrong channel for that. This is the Adrian Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. We're going to talk about these things because we can do that. And Caitlin Clark is not so fragile that we cannot discuss the things that she said and how it relates, not just to sports, but to culture.
I notice some people are calling Caitlin Clark a wimp or she's lacking courage. If there's one thing that that woman showed us last year playing in the WNBA, she is not lacking courage. And this particular person, Adrian Ross, excellent voice. Kudos to your radio voice. Excellent.
Caitlin Clark, I got your back. All those phony fans that turned your back today because you just told your truth, they're not your fans. They suck anyway. Can't believe how you can get mad at Caitlin Clark because she want to help black women. She straight up said, I'm here, I got your back. And everyone turned their backs. What's wrong with you people? You weren't real fans to begin with. I didn't see that as pandering. I didn't see that as bend the knee. And those who say that she apologized for being white, she didn't apologize. That means she didn't read the article at all. She didn't. She just recognized what she is and how society views her. That's what she was talking about, privilege. But she didn't apologize. She said, I earned everything I got. And I love the fact that she's honest about it, and the fact that she tried her best. Listen, it was a little articulated kind of weird. I get what she's trying to do. She's trying to be a peacemaker. She's trying to meet in the middle. She's extending her hand like, hey, yo, stop. I'm not your enemy. I'm your advocate. Let's play some ball. Okay? And I'm trying to uplift this league so we can get to that status.
I agree, and that's well said there. I think it's one of those things where you can look at it and say, oh my God, she's pandering to the other side. But what if she's on that other side? I don't think she ever officially said what side of the political line she's on. I think we just assumed she was on the side that was rooting for her. But you know what? Everybody deep down roots for Caitlin Clark because she's super fun to watch. Even if you hate Larry Bird, you probably still loved watching him play. And even if you loved Larry and hated Magic Johnson, you probably still loved watching him play. I was a Phoenix Suns fan, so even though I hated everybody in the league because they were all better than us, I still loved watching the league.
Agenda just took out one of the best basketball players of all time, Caitlin Clark, the girl that got me excited about women's sports.
Why is
Came
that
out with an
stop?
article in Time magazine saying that she's thrilled about her accomplishments, but unfortunately, there's white privilege. And then she started talking about how black girls are the cornerstone of the WNBA. First of all, there's no cornerstone of the WNBA. Like, no one watches the WNBA. And the people that watch the WNBA for you is not because you're white. It's because you're an awesome player. You're an incredible basketball player. And all those years of going to camp,
Then shouldn't that be the only thing that matters?
all that money of traveling to different tournaments, all those hours spent shooting those threes, because you don't just do that because you're white. I'm white. I can't do that. And I'm a guy. Unfortunately, the woke agenda has convinced you to downgrade your importance on your accomplishments because you're white and let someone else get the credit. Someone that doesn't deserve it.
Here's the cool thing, guys. We know as fans that she can't take away her own credit from herself. It's up to the fans, and I think the fans still consider her great, and that's all that matters.
Caitlin Clark is named Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. And looking at her interview, I feel like some of you need to get in this comment section and apologize for playing in my face when I told you, which she is now acknowledging, that there is a difference in the way she is being treated in the league because she is white. Caitlin states, a lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important, and I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing.
And I think that's a true statement. I think we can all agree that we need to try to elevate Black women that are trying to be successful. We don't necessarily have to elevate anybody who's trying to be under par and not cool. We want to make sure that we elevate people that are trying to do the right thing in life. And WNBA players have an excellent work ethic. I think we should champion that.
Here's what I have to say about Caitlin Clark's interview with Time Magazine, as she has just been announced Women's Athlete of the Year. She's a phenomenal athlete. Phenomenal. She's brought so much interest into the WNBA. What she's accomplished at 22, 23 is amazing. It's very sad to me that that statement can't stand alone and has to be about race.
What do you guys think of that? All right, so this gentleman wrote, imagine if Serena Williams, upon winning Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year, thanked all the straight white women that came before her for laying the foundation. Knowing her other status has privilege, she wanted to give her truth and uplift the other tennis players. Imagine. So how does that make you guys feel? How does that make you guys think? My thinking is, let's go back to the first lady that said it. She's 22. Let's give her a little grace either way. And let's just appreciate that more than likely over the next 8 years, she's probably going to actually get better. And if she does make some more players want to play in the same type of level that she does, she is going to uplift the game. And who knows, maybe one day half of us guys will actually start watching all the games rather than just the one she's taking part in.
The backlash that Caitlin Clark has gotten because of her saying and giving respect to those who came before her, that happened to be black in the league of the WNBA. I think it is absolutely ridiculous, the backlash that she's getting. I'm that type of person that I wish that certain people would stay neutral on certain subjects, just because don't give life to a beast that's constantly trying to gnaw at you from either side of the aisle. When it comes to these types of subjects, meaning political, because unfortunately people turn everything into politics, which is so sad.
And it's so tough. You're asking a 22-year-old girl these different hard questions, right? And she has to think about every answer instead of just being her genuine self.
I understand why she was giving the credit to the people who came before her, who just happened to be black. Cheryl Swoops, Dawn Staley, Lisa Leslie, these individuals like that who helped establish the league.
Cynthia Cooper was the best WNBA basketball player of all time, in my opinion.
I think that's very humble of her. However, Caitlin Clark is in a league of her own. Just talking from talent. Just talking from talent. It ain't got nothing to do with black or white. And unfortunately, this is something that people just constantly keep missing. This is not a black or white thing. This is who can play the game, who can be as effective on the game as possible. But for her to say that she, that there's a certain privilege that comes with her getting the limelight that she's getting, I don't agree with that personally. You're getting the coverage that you're getting because of your abilities on the court.
I agree. Well said.
It's a sad day in sports. Sad day in sports. Caitlin Clark went woke. I made that video back on June 15th. I was so proud of her because she didn't fall into the trap of wokeness, falling into the trap of wanting to be accepted by a league that will never accept her. And now it's like, wow, she's like that girl who you loved, who you wanted, and then you saw a little chink in her armor and you'd be like, yeah, I don't like her as much anymore. I mean, listen, I'm still going to watch her. But I liked her for more than basketball. Yeah. I liked her for her resiliency, her ability to overcome all these social issues that she was dealing with. And I liked her parents. And I think when Caitlin Clark's dad probably read her manifesto about white privilege and being woke and owing everything to the black players and all that, he probably said, don't do it, Caitlin. Don't do it. And she did it anyway. She felt she had to do it to be accepted because she didn't want 2025 to be like 2024. I'm sure it was hard. I'm sure it was hard for her.
She did get beat up a lot, but you want to know something? Every time she got beat up, she ended up scoring better. It was almost like you mess with her and you're going to get your butt kicked that much more. I loved Caitlin Clark. I still do. It's all about the basketball. Play ball. Let's see you go. I can't wait for next year.
Last night, we read Time magazine where Caitlin Clark was named Athlete of the Year. Why couldn't they have put the whole WNBA on that cover and said, the WNBA is the league of the year?
So I don't know about you, but that comes across as tacky. If somebody wins an individual award from a magazine and they didn't have anything to do with who won that award, then I don't really see how it's any of your business. And to give that award to a whole team just seems really kind of corny. And if you take it a step further, it seems really wrong and tacky. With that being said, I want to talk about this subject some more. Will you join me? Go get your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Good morning, Venters. Today, we're going to take it to the Republicans, and I'm being real this time. There was something that happened over the last couple days that I heard about, but I wanted to kind of watch a couple videos before I spoke about it. But I heard that Caitlin Clark, the women's basketball player, had kind of gone woke. And a lot of people were kind of starting to turn against her. And when they say people turning against her, I assume they were talking about the conservatives, the Republicans, right? The white people, right? So I wanted to talk with you guys about this. And I watched a couple videos to get some pictures of her and to also get a little quote that she supposedly said. And then I thought we could talk about it and read some comments from another video that I got. And I'll put everything up on the board so we can read it together, okay? But here's the funny thing. You got to remember, one of the problems that I have just as a human being living in America is that we're all polarized. We're all on one side of the aisle or the other. And one of the things that bothers me is that there's some topics that we're not allowed to talk about while others are, right? Those things come across as unfair. I don't like the idea of people finding out that I'm a conservative and then saying, you know what, I don't want to hear anything you have to say. But at the same time, that also puts a little responsibility with us. If we're against that type of shunning or censorship, we can't get into the point where we don't allow people to be themselves. So if Caitlin Clark was completely woke, completely on the left, irredeemable by us on the right, right? We still have to let her be herself. Just because she's a fan favorite by us, so to speak, does not mean that she has to necessarily agree with everything that we agree. I think what makes us special as a country is that we are allowed to be different. We are allowed to have our own thoughts and our own opinions. And I don't think you have to necessarily like somebody else's opinions, but at least be respectful of them. So I'm going to read you some comments that I thought were just out of line, basically from Republicans. Where I'm going to start here is with what Caitlin Clark supposedly has said over the last couple weeks. Number one, her best concert experience was with watching Taylor Swift. And apparently Taylor Swift had made a pro comment or tweet towards presidential candidate Kamala Harris. And supposedly Caitlin Clark gave that a thumbs up, has declared herself a Swiftie now, right? And keep in mind, you can totally love somebody as an athlete, but you might feel the exact opposite way they do when it comes to politics or comes to religion or comes to, your favorite college basketball team. I hope all your guys' favorite teams are ASU Sun Devils now, or else, okay? So anyway, the world was shocked to know that Caitlin was actually a Taylor Swift fan, even though I bet if you went to the homes of a lot of Republican families, I'd be willing to bet their kids love Taylor Swift just as much. The reason these things are important, that we love each other regardless of what side of the aisle we're on, is because, guys, I'm in a family where every one of my family members is Democrat. Does that mean I want to turn off my love for my family, or that I want them to turn off their love for me? Heck no. As a matter of fact, your boy's got a birthday party to go to for my granddaughter. Happy 3rd birthday, Dagny! Yay! Wouldn't it be odd if we lived in a country where the only presidents that ever won were Republicans, or the only presidents that ever won were Democrats? That would be a weird situation. The fact that we go back and forth shows that sometimes as a people, we like to change our mind. We like to try other things. I think that's a good positive thing with our country. Could it all be a sham? Potentially. Caitlin Clark says, I'd like to think I've earned everything. And by the way, this is not me quoting her. This is me paraphrasing her, okay? I'd like to think I've earned everything, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of the good players in the league are black. She's talking about the WNBA. The league has been built predominantly on black women. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Now, I don't know about you guys. Some people can get up in arms about that quote. I just look at it for reality. This is a girl that's in her early 20s, right? So around the turn of the century she was born, she probably started watching women's basketball, I'm guessing in her 5 or 6 year old range, right? 1st or 2nd grade. She probably started playing it then. And if you turn on college basketball, you're probably going to see predominantly African American women playing. So I think that's no different than when I was growing up. I bet me and Sean have this in common. Sean, one of my favorite teams growing up, my favorite team before the Cardinals moved here to Arizona, was the Dallas Cowboys. My favorite player was Tony Dorsett, right? In basketball, my favorite player was a guy named Walter Davis, who recently died over the past couple years. God rest your soul, Walter Davis. The Phoenix Suns were horrible, guys, when I was growing up, but there was one shining star on the team. It was Walter Davis. He was the actual player that could make a bucket when the others couldn't. So I loved watching that guy play. I just hated that the Suns always lost to the Lakers no matter what. With the Cowboys, we didn't have the Cardinals. I loved how Tony Dorsett was that guy that would occasionally break a tackle and make a 50-yard touchdown run. It was awesome. Those were my favorite players. I didn't grow up thinking, how come Danny White's not running the ball, right? How come Randy White's not giving more pub? I didn't look at it like that. I don't think kids do. So when she says that, she's got some white privilege, there are some things that happen as a positive for being white. I don't necessarily call it as a privilege, because I think when I meet people, whether they're white, black, or any other color, if they act rude and sassy, I'm put off by that. If they act nice and cordial, I'm usually, able to smile and, talk with them the whole 9 yards. I think we're all like that, right? If somebody's rude and sassy to you, aren't you kind of put off by it? And if somebody's open and gives you a handshake and a hug and wants to chat, those are the fun people to chat. She goes, basically, I'm comfortable in my own skin. My best skill is just blocking out the noise. And think about this. The way she plays basketball is just top notch. People love watching good basketball players. Normally, people compare her to Steph Curry. I don't know about you, but I also love watching Steph Curry. I could watch that guy play 24 hours a day. He's just that entertaining and exciting. And I think he's going to go down as one of the GOATs. It's going to be Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and then maybe at that 4th spot, you can throw players in there like Steph Curry, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. That's kind of my Mount Rushmore of basketball players. And someday, we might even have somebody like a Luka Doncic on that Mount Rushmore, because I think Luka is going to start winning some championships. One of my favorite football players right now is this running back for ASU called Cam Skattebo. I suppose there are people that probably love that he's a little white guy. What I love about him is he reminds me of this player named Mike Alstott, and Mike Alstott was just the scariest person to tackle probably of all time. And if you guys ever watch this running back, he's just incredibly hard for people to tackle. Anyway, they were talking about Caitlin Clark, and what somebody broke it down to was that she's basically saying, I'm not fighting against Kamala Harris, I'm not fighting against Taylor Swift, I'm not fighting against black women or lesbian women. I don't know if she's saying any of that at all. So in the Roland Martin show, and I got a couple of these pictures from the Roland Martin show too, so I want to give him his props. I really enjoy watching his show. The show is a little anti-white, so when I watch it, I feel like, hey, I'm part white, part Mexican, so it all equates to me not being black, but at the same time, I consider myself to be multicultural. So when somebody says that, when you can kind of sense that a show doesn't really like white people, and I leave a comment on that show every now and again, which I do, I feel a little like I'm, I don't know, I guess watching a football game with the enemy, with the opposing team, so to speak. But I guess I just view things different. As a Christian, we're all supposed to be brothers and sisters, regardless of our race or the color of our skin. Does anybody else feel like that? That's the thing that's missing to me about the world. If you look at somebody and they've got a cross on their neck, right? People wear a cross all the time. And you're a Christian, you'd like to think that you can just have a conversation with that person because they believe in a forgiving God, you know, where you forgive people of their sins and you try to live your life like Jesus from the standpoint of you're supposed to forgive. That's kind of the point of our faith. And you're supposed to look at each other as brothers and sisters, and you're supposed to treat your neighbor as you would do unto yourself, right? In other words, treat people how you would like to be treated. But for some reason, we forget all that when it comes to politics and when it comes to race relations in this country. And it's just really kind of bothersome because I don't think it's necessary. I think it distracts us from what our purpose is on this earth, which is to work as a team, as a family unit for the betterment of the world. Instead, we're too busy wrestling with one another, and it's just kind of sad. So while I don't think she's against Kamala Harris, Taylor Swift, black women, or lesbian women, at the same time, you know, I think she really just wants to get along. You know, on her team, I assume there's probably 4, 5, 6 women of color on her team. I also assume there's probably a handful of girls that see themselves as lesbian. Imagine if you worked in a job where this was the makeup of the people around you. You would have to do your best to get along. So, I mean, you know, they talk to each other on the daily. They probably mention things like politics. And who knows, she might be a lifelong Democrat. And we just always assume, oh, there's another white Republican. Why are they always so white? By the way, I've noticed there's a lot more black Republicans now, a lot more conservatives. And I think you could be a lifelong Democrat and there could have been a piece of you that wanted to vote for Trump just to get somebody that was, different than the current administration that we had. So again, if you voted for Trump this time, I don't think it necessarily means that you're stuck and you have to vote Republican all the time. You know, it'd be good, it'd be nice. Can I sign you up for that promise? Okay, so James, W8, X1Q. God, how does somebody come up with a name like that? Says she just cut her fans in half. Someone never told her, go woke, go broke. Guys, here's the thing. Go woke, go broke probably does hurt you if you're trying to sell beer and half of your people that are enjoying your beverage are conservative and there's other beers to choose from that might be better than your beer but only cost a nickel more. I could see that hurting business. But at the same time, if she's really good at basketball, people are still going to watch her. How do we know this? Well, think about this. LeBron James is obviously on Kamala Harris's side too. When he's on and I'm, not doing anything other than just sitting there, I'll watch a LeBron James basketball game. And if he does a fantastic dunk or a fantastic pass, I'm still going to say, ooh. I might even go on Facebook and say, did you see that pass? Usually not, but sometimes I would do that in the past, don't you guys? If you guys really want to know the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, and I think all of you guys know this, even if you don't think you're a sports fan. When you see LeBron James, he is all smiles, and he's such a big guy, you just assume he's the toughest guy in the league, but I'm telling you, that guy's anger was nothing like Michael Jordan's. Michael Jordan played with a fighter's anger and rage. He was like a bull in there, literally. That's amazing that he played for the Bulls because he literally was like a bull. He would put his head down, drive to that hoop, pull up, usually get the foul, make the basket, and then finish off with a free throw. The guy was just unstoppable. And when LeBron James has the ball at the end of the game, I don't even think he's going to make it half the time. When Jordan has the ball, it's like, oh my God, we're going to lose. P. Brigg 4298 says, Clark just gave her own mother and father a big middle finger. She turned her back on all they did for her and what she and herself accomplished.
I think it's just a situation where you got to know the room that you're in. And I think her co-workers all make up a party that's probably a little bit different than the average person she knew growing up. And I just think it's a person's way of, you know, you got to learn to love who you work with. And if you do end up enjoying and loving the people you work with, it's usually common that you kind of start seeing the world the way they do. Does that mean she's going to end up becoming this lesbian player? I don't know, only time will tell. What a coward she has revealed herself to be. Man, if you saw how many times this girl gets hit in the face. If you're not a basketball fan, but you want to see the toughest player in all of basketball, look at Caitlin Clark's fouls. Just literally put Caitlin Clark getting fouled in your search browser on YouTube and watch how many times she gets hit to the point where it's like excessive, and she still keeps going. So I'm not going to call her a coward. I'm going to say she's probably the bravest human being in sports. What a coward she has revealed herself to be. No respect and no reason to watch her ever again. P-Brig, if you're watching basketball or any type of sporting event because of politics or the lack thereof, that's a weird reason to watch sports. You should want to watch sports because sports just really is entertaining. It's the best way to watch a war without anybody losing their life, right? Sports are kind of comparable to war, if you think about it. And when your team wins, it makes you feel like you won. And when your team loses, it makes you feel like you lost. That's why, please, I want you guys to pray for ASU. We had this charismatic friend of my mom, about probably 15, 20 years ago. No, probably 30 years ago, actually. And she used to say, when one person prays, 1,000 angels take flight. And when two or more people pray, 10,000 angels take flight. And I'm like, I don't know about that math. But if that's true, ASU needs a prayer, guys. Give us a little prayer if you don't mind. Kevin's 9412 says, she lost me at white privilege. Kevins, I'm a little disillusioned by that statement too. There are so many white kids growing up nowadays, and they're in poverty. Their parents might be drug addicted. They might have an uncle that lives in the front yard because he's not allowed in the house. There are so many people that have it bad of all different races. Somewhere I heard that there are more white people. Maybe you guys know this, maybe you guys don't, but if you do, let me know down in the comments. I've heard that there are more white people that are on food stamps and welfare than black people. Now, a lot of white people will say, yeah, but Jesse, that's because we make up 65% of the population and black people only make up 12%, yada, yada. But what it boils down to is there's a lot of poor people out there, okay? And I don't think we should sit there and just naturally say that everybody has some sort of privilege. Again, you want to know something? If you're an up-and-coming black person, and what I mean by that is you're a young teen getting ready to become an adult, if you smile, if you treat people with kindness, it'll come back to you. I know plenty of bosses that are willing to give you promotions. I know plenty of black people that I've met through the years that have had positions in companies higher than me. It's always challenging to get ahead. But one thing is, you got to make yourself appealing. So if you live in this world where you naturally think that all people are against you if they're not the same color as you, you're going to find out that you're right. But if you try to look for the good in people, you're going to find out that you're right there as well. There's a lot of good people. Treat people as you'd like to be treated. And trust me, those promotions and those monetary opportunities will pop up for you too. I've never had a group of white friends that when we're together, we just conspire against people of other races. I've never seen that. Have I heard racial jokes? Yes, but I've heard that. But I've heard racial jokes from every race, okay? I've heard bad, horrible things from every race. And here's the absolute positive truth. So have you. We've all heard that stuff. What we need to do is we need to start coming together and making from this point forward better than it's been. Because right now, it's a little strained. Sometimes there's people, and you have friends of all colors, and you accept people, you know, of all types, right? And all backgrounds. And sometimes you wonder, like, why is the world so divided? I think it's because some people wake up looking for the good in others, and some people wake up looking for the bad. That's why I always tell you how sometimes I wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and I think that we should arrest all criminals and throw away the key, right? But then sometimes I wake up on the other good side of the bed, and I'm a little bit more forgiving and lenient, and I realize that we're humans and we make mistakes. I just wish that everybody could wake up and realize that the answer to the world's problems is not to point fingers. The answer to the world's problems is to start being brotherly and sisterly to one another. Could you imagine if you actually treated your neighbor as good as yourself? Could you imagine how wonderful the world would be? Could you imagine if everybody actually did try to be better today than they were yesterday? I mean, everybody in the world. We would literally have a beautiful place to live in just a few days. It's just too bad that people always look at others rather than themselves, you know? RJ5000 says, the good news is I can go back to completely ignoring the WNBA. I think that if she's really good and she can maintain that for at least 5 to 10 years, because a lot of times athletes get an injury and then they're not that good anymore. If she can maintain it long enough for other girls to grow up and want to play basketball like she does, then we're going to have a really entertaining women's league in just a couple of years. I don't think it's where it needs to be today, but let's be honest, if everybody played like Caitlin Clark plays, and if everybody was tall enough in the women's league where they could dunk, oh my God, that game would be just as popular as the men's league, minus a handful of people. Okay, minus tens of millions of people, but it would be much better. S. Stewart, 44, says, the whole country is running away from wokeness and she's running towards it. Again, I don't know if you thumbsing up a Taylor Swift comment about something that is pro Kamala Harris. I don't know if that is you running towards anything. And if you have to, and if you leave a quote that basically says you respect all the female black players that were basically the reason the WNBA was a league, I don't think that makes you woke either. And by the way, if you're a woke person that just loves the idea of change and people being accepted, that's not a bad thing. What's a bad thing is if you say you're for acceptance, except for X, Y, and Z. That's the bad version of wokeness, right? Like, hey, we want you to be able to accept everybody for the way they are, unless you're white, Christian, a male, conservative, right? That's where it's wrong. That's called hypocritical. That was one of the things that Jesus would always dislike about the Jewish leaders. It seemed like the Jews, who were the chosen people of God, it seemed like they were full of hypocrisy. He doesn't like that. So here's the thing. As a Christian, you're supposed to be forgiving, but you're not supposed to like hypocrisy. And keep in mind, a lot of times we can be hypocritical. In one thing, I can sound like I'm the most open-minded person in the world. And in another thing, all of a sudden, it's like, Jesse, that sounds a little hypocritical. That's where you have to say, hey, I'm still a human. I'm not perfect. I'm not a finished product. I'm a work in progress. And I want to change for the better. And so here's my challenge to you guys. Get to the point where when people disagree with you, you can still love them for it. And you can be okay with that disagreement. Because imagine a world where everybody agreed with you about everything. It would really feel like we lived in a robot world. The fact that two people can see things from two different points of views and have two different conclusions is really kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. I think there's certain things where we should come together, like we should want to stamp out crime and rampant drug abuse, right, where people are dying, and we should want to get rid of things like sex trafficking. What blows me away is sometimes it's hard for us to get together even for those things that seem like we should be on the same team. Don't let others divide us. Stay together. If you were a fan of Caitlin Clark's last week, be a fan of hers this week. She should be able to say whatever she wants. Hi, pretty girl. Pretty girl, I missed you. Pretty girl's like, I don't give a shit. Have a beautiful day. I'm off to a party. If you ever have kids and grandkids, it's a blessing. Don't let people tell you that it's a drain and you should get rid of that child. Keep that child. They're a blessing. Trust me. Have a beautiful day.